All right, we're continuing to track the attack on Lakewood Church, a Houston church last Sunday, though many questions still remain. A picture has emerged of the shooter, Janice Moreno, a deeply unwell person who was known to authorities and who was previously held involuntarily for psychiatric treatment. Now, according to reports and comments from family members, she is not a U.S. citizen. She used an alias during previous psychiatric commitments. Given her history and legal status, how was she able to purchase a gun? Now, those are just two of the many unanswered questions that we have. And of course, she used a male alias. Neighbors described her as describing herself as transgender. So a transgender alien here illegally buying a gun, expressing rage in a church with an AR-15 with Palestine on the butt of it and anti-Semitic writings in her car. Well, we're going to be joined in just a moment. As I mentioned, the House is in a vote. We're going to be joined by Randy Weber, who serves on the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and the House Committee on Space and Technology. He represents the 14th Congressional District of Texas. But I want to go first to Washington Stand's senior reporter and editor, Ben Johnson, for more on this story out of Houston. Ben, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Good to be with you, Tom.
All right, so what more have we learned regarding the shooting there at Lakewood?
There's been a tremendous amount of information that's come from her former mother-in-law, Wally Carranza, who identifies as a rabbi online. The shooter, Moreno, had married into a Jewish family, and there had been a long-standing dispute over 7-year-old Sam, who was shot in the head. She brought her 7-year-old son into the sanctuary when she initiated this mass shooting inside the facility at Houston. Sam, according to the mother-in-law, was born at less than 1 pound because of Moreno's drug use, and she had kept him on a feeding tube for many, many years, well beyond the period of time in which it was necessary to keep him on a feeding tube. They were attempting to get full custody of the child at that time. However, that did not come about.
There's a lot of questions here that it appears that the legacy media and even I'd say law enforcement seem to be dancing around.
Well, they certainly are. I would commend everyone, commend this show, and I would urge everyone to find yesterday's edition of Washington Watch with Tony Perkins. This is one of the few media outlets that actually covered the words of the neighbor, who said she was essentially acting like a woke activist. Whenever they would have a dispute, she would say, "You're opposed to me because I'm transgender. You're opposed to me because I'm black. You're opposed to me because I'm Hispanic." The intersectional portion of this would always change, but it was always playing one of those cards, one of which, as she mentioned, was in fact that she identified as transgender. However, if you say that, there's an Associated Press fact check out saying that she did not in fact identify as transgender. According to those who knew her best, she did.
Right. And I played a clip from law enforcement that, spent 60 seconds explaining why they were identifying her as her and not saying that she was transgender.
Which is interesting in itself, that they took up that much police time, that many police resources.
It's a sad commentary. It's a sad commentary, though, on where we are in the world, in the culture, where we've got to explain when someone is biological, male or female. We have to explain why we're describing them as a male or a female. I mean, it's
absolutely, and of course, this takes up police resources, takes up time that they could devote to other crimes that they may actually be able to find.
Okay, so maybe that's subjective in the minds of some. But let's talk about whether or not someone's in the country legally or illegally. Again, we go to her own family stating that she was not here legally.
Right. Her family knew of her mental health issues. Again, the mother-in-law, Carranza, has said many times that she is schizophrenic, that she has mental issues beyond that. And yet they did not turn her in part because they were afraid it would trigger an immigration investigation, and she would be sent back to her native country because she was here illegally. This seems like the most preventable kind of mass shooting that could have ever been, that could have taken place had anyone looked into any of these issues.
Ben Johnson, thanks so much for joining us and continue to track this story.
Thank you so much.